A heavenly voice vanishes in 1969, along with every trace of a beloved young nun. 3.5 decades later, the still waters of a lake give up a forgotten object hidden in a shadowy grotto, pulling a former detective into secrets that were never meant to surface. What truth lies beneath, and why do so many fear it will be heard again? Join us to see how a single dive reopens the mystery Guadalajara has spent 35 years trying to bury. Monterrey, Mexico, November 7th, 1969. The bells of the Monterrey Metropolitan Cathedral rang softly, like distant echoes announcing more than just a simple Sunday Mass. The golden rays of the sun illuminated the altar, casting gentle colors through the stained glass windows and caressing the old walls. In the center of the altar, with a sweet smile and a heavenly voice, stood the young nun, Faith Gonzalez. Her eyes shone with that special light that used to calm the children of the orphanage. She always smiled when she sang, always comforting, always faith. But that morning, her smile concealed a secret. A fear pulsed restlessly in her heart, stirring with every word of the hymn that left her lips. When she finished her last note, a strange sensation invaded her chest. Could this be the day that changed everything? Beautiful voice, Sister Faith, whispered Sister Elena Castro, approaching discreetly. Today's Mass was truly special. Faith clasped her friend's hands with unusual force. Thank you, Elena. I needed this strength today, she replied almost in a sigh. Is something wrong? Asked Elena, worried upon noticing a certain unease in Faith's eyes. It's just that I have something very important to do now. Prayers, please, sister. I need your support. Without waiting for an answer, Faith quickly grabbed her well-worn Bible and hurried out of the temple. Elena remained still, a strange feeling slowly taking over her. What could possibly be worrying Faith like that? Monterrey Square was bustling with life. People leaving Mass, children running around laughing, street vendors selling typical sweets. But Faith walked firmly, with a clear mission. Her steps echoed with determination, her eyes showing a glint of anguish mixed with courage. Would she be able to stand up to the powerful Victor Montoya? She arrived punctually at the cafe where they had agreed to meet. Sitting at the table near the window, she checked once more the Bible she always carried. She took a deep breath and saw Victor appear, elegant and self-assured. An affable smile on his face concealed intentions she already knew. Faith greeted Victor in a deep voice. How good to see you. Always punctual. We need to talk seriously, Mr. Montoya. About the orphanage. About you. The businessman's smile tensed slightly as he took a seat. What exactly are you talking about? He asked with feigned innocence, fiddling with his wedding ring, a habitual gesture when he felt cornered. I've discovered what really happens at the orphanage you fund. Children who disappear, abuses hidden behind your supposed generosity. Victor slowly leaned toward her, lowering his voice. Be careful what you say, sister. Do you have any idea how powerful my words can be in this city? My words may not carry the same weight, but my voice does. The truth always finds its way, Faith responded firmly. Victor stared at her. A threatening shadow crossed his face. Think carefully, Faith. If you reveal those lies, you'll destroy your own reputation. No one will believe you over me. We'll see about that, Mr. Montoya. We'll see. Faith stood up and hurried out. Her breath was ragged. She knew she had just declared a dangerous war. Could she win against someone as powerful as Victor Montoya? Next day, the convent doors remained silent. Faith's room was empty. The nuns began their routine without her, believing she might be running late on some important task. But Elena felt a strange emptiness in her chest, an intuition that wouldn't leave her alone. She quickly combed the convent, nervously asking, all the sisters. Faith was nowhere to be found. Fear turned to anguish. Something has happened to her, Elena murmured, feeling a chill. I know it. Something terrible has occurred. Without wasting time, Elena went to the authorities, demanding immediate help. But her desperation was met by the indifference of local bureaucracy. Finally, a young officer, Daniel Rosales, known for his integrity, took note of the case. "I'll do everything I can to find her, sister," Rosales promised. "But I need details. Did she have enemies? Anyone who might want to harm her?" The image of Faith's meeting with Victor Montoya quickly crossed Elena's mind. Victor Montoya. They were together yesterday. "Please, officer, help me find her." Rosales nodded seriously, fully aware of the risk he faced by investigating such a powerful figure. Could he stand up to the Montoya family without consequences? Hours turned into days. The community began murmuring about the mysterious fate of Sister Faith. The investigation stalled, and Rosales constantly faced pressure from his superiors, friends of the Montoya family. One afternoon, Elena received an unexpected visit from a young woman, Adriana, a flower seller who often visited the square. "Sister Elena, I need to tell you something important," said Adriana, nervous, glancing around as though afraid of being overheard. "Tell me, my child. Don't be afraid. The night Faith disappeared, I saw her near the lagoon of San Esteban, at the old Puente de Santa Lucia. She was arguing with Mr. Montoya. They seemed to be having a serious fight, sister. I'm scared." Elena felt the blood drain from her face. Adriana's words confirmed her worst fears. "Why didn't you say this before?" she asked, trying to control the tremor in her voice. "Because he saw me, and I'm afraid for my life. But I can't keep this secret anymore. Faith was good to me. She deserves justice." Without delay, Elena went to the police station. She told Rosales everything. She knew, and he seemed to share her distress. "This changes everything," Rosales said, taking notes quickly. "I'm going straight to Montoya. This time we'll get answers." Elena felt a slight spark of hope. But would it be enough to face a man so powerful? The next day, Rosales visited Victor Montoya in his office. The conversation began calmly, but soon turned into a battle of stares. "I suggest you stop, Officer Rosales," Montoya warned with a serene but menacing tone. "You're venturing into dangerous territory." "I'm just looking for the truth, Mr. Montoya. What really happened?" That night at the lagoon, Victor stood up slowly, drawing closer in an intimidating manner. "It's better for everyone if you stop asking questions." Rosales left the building knowing he had touched a nerve. However, that same night, he received an immediate order from his superiors. He had to abandon the case at once. Elena received the news with horror and desperation. Without Rosales, who could uncover the truth about Faith? That night, gazing at the crucifix in her room, she asked herself in anguish, what could she, a humble nun, do against such a powerful man? The silence in the convent felt unbearable. The walls, once so comforting, were now silent witnesses to a dark mystery. What exactly happened at the lagoon? Could anyone uncover the truth without suffering consequences? Would the disappearance of Faith be forgotten forever? And there, by the dim light of a candle, Elena made a silent promise. She would never stop seeking justice for Faith. Yet while she planned her next step, a dark premonition filled her heart. Was she truly prepared to face the secrets buried beneath the surface? That silence she so despised was only just beginning. What do you think really happened to Sister Faith that night by the lagoon? Leave me your theory in the comments. Monterrey, Mexico, October 9th, 2004. The lagoon of San Esteban seemed calm that morning, its surface like a gleaming mirror under the Mexican sun. But Martin Fernandez knew that beneath that apparent stillness, many secrets lay hidden. At 62, Martin was known for two things: having been a former police officer obsessed with unsolved cases, and his skill as a professional diver. Since the Yahtzee tragic death of his son Diego, murdered under unexplained circumstances, Martin had devoted his life to unearthing forgotten truths. His tough face and penetrating gaze showed a man who no longer feared confronting darkness. That morning, Martin's objective was simple: explore the lagoon in search of archaeological remains. He never imagined he was about to discover something that would change everything. He put on his wetsuit, adjusted his goggles, and with a deep breath, slipped slowly into the water. As he descended into the underwater gloom, his flashlight revealed a mysterious, silent scene. The calm enveloped him, but a strange sensation in his chest warned him of something he couldn't identify. What was he really searching for? After a few minutes of exploring the muddy bottom, he noticed a strange rock formation. Approaching cautiously, he spotted an entrance partially covered by dark algae. It was a small underwater grotto. His pulse quickened. What could be hidden inside? He entered slowly, illuminating with care. Inside the grotto, the beam of his flashlight revealed something odd, an old leather bag, worn down by time. Martin felt a chill run down his spine. Something told him that shouldn't be there. He carefully took the bag and rose slowly to the surface. Upon emerging, he noticed the rough-aged texture beneath his fingers. His heart pounded as he opened the bag. Inside, he found a Bible with a nearly destroyed cover, soaked by the water. Moving it closer, he could clearly make out a name etched into it. Faith Gonzalez, 1969. Martin felt his breath catch. He knew that name well. He'd heard it hundreds of times during his years as a police officer. The nun who vanished without a trace, the tragic legend of Monterey. But how had that Bible ended up at the bottom of the lagoon? He realized he had stumbled upon something major. What secrets did that sacred book contain? That night, in his modest home in the historic center, Martin carefully dried each page. The faded letters seemed unwilling to reveal their secrets. However, as he gently ran his fingers over them, he felt something odd, a folded page hidden among the central sections. With trembling hands, he unfolded the yellowed sheet. It was a handwritten letter with fine, desperate penmanship. If someone finds this, it means I'm no longer here. I discovered something terrible about Victor Montoya and his orphanage. Missing children, mistreated, sold. I can't allow it. I know they'll try to silence me. But the truth must come out. Please, whoever finds this, seek justice. Faith Gonzalez. Martin's heart pounded. This letter was a real, tangible clue. The words echoed in his mind. Victor Montoya, the powerful businessman. A child trafficking network? What was the connection between Faith and Victor? He knew he had to investigate until the end, but he couldn't do it alone. He needed someone who had personally known Faith Gonzalez. The next day, Martin visited the municipal archives. Hours of reviewing old newspapers, yellowed photographs, and official documents led him to a name: Sister Elena Castro. According to various notes, Elena had been closest to Faith. Was she still alive? After several phone calls, he finally located her. Elena was still living, now elderly, at the convent of Our Lady of Grace. Martin decided to visit her immediately. The convent stood silent on the outskirts of Monterey, surrounded by tranquil gardens. A young nun guided him to a small, sober room. Sitting on a wooden chair with wrinkled but firm hands, Elena slowly lifted her gaze toward him. Her tired eyes still held a profound intensity. "Who are you?" asked Elena, in a gentle but alert voice. "My name is Martin Fernandez. I'm a diver, a former police officer. I've come to speak to you about Faith Gonzalez." At that name, Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Faith," she murmured, moved. "So many years have passed. I know how hard it is to remember, sister, but I've found something important in the lagoon of San Esteban. A Bible bearing Faith's name and a very revealing letter." Elena felt her body tremble. Had a real clue about her missing friend finally appeared? "Please, tell me everything," she whispered anxiously. Martin showed her the letter, carefully preserved. As she read, silent tears began rolling down Elena's face. "I knew it," she whispered bitterly. "Victor Montoya, I always suspected he was involved. What do you know about all this, Sister Elena?" "Everything and nothing," she replied, in a broken voice. "I tried for years to report him, but no one ever listened. Too much power, too many contacts. Elena took a slow breath, attempting to compose herself. Faith went to confront him that last morning. She never returned. I'm certain he had something to do with it. Martin approached gently. Who else might know something about this? Who else knew Faith so well? Elena thought for a moment. Her eyes seemed to relive a painful past. Daniel Rosales. He was the detective who first investigated the case, but they pulled him off it. He never got to finish his work. Could I speak with him? Elena shook her head slowly. He passed away years ago, but maybe his daughter knows something. Her name is Laura Rosales. She's a journalist. Her father kept secret notes, I'm sure of it. Martin nodded. He had a new lead. Before leaving, he gently took Elena's hands. I promise, sister, I'll find out what really happened to Faith. I won't let her voice be lost in silence. Elena looked at him deeply, and for the first time in decades, felt a faint hope blossom in her weary heart. That same afternoon, Martin walked thoughtfully through the streets of Monterey. Faith's letter weighed in his pocket like a constant reminder of his mission. As he headed home, he noticed something unsettling. A black car following him slowly, stopping whenever he stopped. His old police instincts never failed. Who was tailing him? Did someone already know about the Bible and the letter? He quickened his pace, skillfully ducking through narrow streets until he lost sight of the mysterious car. Still, he couldn't stop wondering how many people truly knew the truth about Victor Montoya. That night, seated in his study, carefully reviewing the letter and old notes from the case, Martin felt the burden of responsibility. Could he uncover the truth without risking his life? Was he willing to go all the way? One thing was certain. He would not stop until he knew exactly what happened that night, 35 years ago, on the banks of the lagoon of San Esteban. Faith's name echoed in his mind like a cry for justice. But as he reflected, a dark thought crossed his mind. What if Victor Montoya hadn't acted alone? How many more secrets might still lie beneath the water? He had no idea he was about to awaken dark forces that had lain dormant for decades. The old convent of Our Lady of Grace had always been a haven of calm and serenity. But that afternoon, as the sun set slowly, an unexpected storm began to form over Monterey's skies, darkening the corridors and filling the air with uncertainty. Martin Fernandez walked slowly along the main corridor of the convent, carefully, holding the ancient leather Bible he had found at the bottom of the lagoon. His footsteps resounded softly on the old tiles, mingling with the distant echo of prayers and hushed voices. In front of him, a young nun named Lucia waited nervously, having received him at the entrance. Please wait here. Sister Elena will be here shortly, Lucia said, then withdrew. Martin remained silent, gazing at the walls decorated with paintings of saints, old and worn by time. How would Sister Elena react upon seeing that Bible after all these years? Finally, slow footsteps interrupted his thoughts. Looking up, he saw a petite elderly woman with a lined face and white hair neatly tied under her habit. Her small, bright eyes displayed deep emotion and sadness at the same time. I'm Elena Castro, the elderly woman said softly, approaching carefully. They told me you have something to show me. My name is Martin Fernandez. I'm a diver and former police officer. I need to talk to you about Faith Gonzalez. At that name, Elena's hands trembled slightly. Her eyes brimmed with restrained tears. It's been so long since anyone mentioned that name here, Elena murmured, moved. How did you know her? Without immediately answering, Martin slowly held out the old Bible. Seeing it, Elena brought a hand to her chest, as if struggling for breath. Oh my God. Where did you find this? It was at the bottom of the lagoon of San Esteban. I believe it may help us discover the truth about Faith. Elena took the Bible with trembling hands. Gently touching the cover, tears filled her eyes as she saw the engraved name. Faith always used to say the truth couldn't stay hidden forever, muttered Elena, tears quietly rolling down her cheeks. All these years I searched for her, prayed for answers that never came. I never imagined finding something like this. There was a letter inside, Martin added calmly, handing her the folded paper. It appears Faith uncovered something terrible involving Victor Montoya. At that name, Elena shivered. She knew full well the powerful, untouchable man Montoya had become. But at last, the letter confirmed what she had long suspected. Victor Montoya. She murmured, her suppressed anger surfacing. I knew he was behind this. What do we do now? Martin looked at her intently, determined. We find evidence, sister. This time no one can hide it. Elena nodded, recovering a strength she thought she'd lost. I promised Faith I would never forget her. Now, thanks to you, I might finally keep that promise. Over the following days, Martin and Elena began an intense investigation. He discreetly reached out to old colleagues in the police force, using what contacts he still had. Many, upon hearing Montoya's name, responded with fear, but a few, driven by a sense of justice, handed over documents and old statements revealing the businessman's dark nature. In the afternoons, Martin returned to the convent to show Elena the new leads that emerged. She provided details and memories that completed the puzzle, reliving painful moments but necessary ones to reach the truth. However, both noticed strange events in and around the convent. Some days the lights flickered for no apparent reason. Other times, anonymous phone calls interrupted the peace with veiled, chilling threats. One particularly cold night, while Martin and Elena pored over old photographs and notes in a small convent room, the phone rang abruptly. Elena jumped, eyeing the device with unease. Answering it, a distorted voice shattered the silence. Stop digging up the past. Some things must remain buried. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. Martin, seeing her expression, took the phone decisively. Who are you? He demanded firmly. But the only reply was silence, followed by a final click. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. Who was threatening them? Could the power of Victor Montoya still reach so far? 2 nights later, as a storm raged across the city, Elena awoke suddenly at the sound of noises in the convent hallway. With her heart racing, she lit a small lamp and stepped into the empty corridor. Is anyone there? She asked in a trembling voice. Only silence replied. But as she walked, she noticed something disturbing. The door to her room had been forced open. Entering, she found drawers overturned, papers scattered on the floor. They had been searching for something. But what exactly? With shaking hands, she called Martin at once. They broke into my room, Martin. They were looking for something. I think they're afraid of what we might discover. Martin arrived quickly, inspecting the mess. Amid the scattered papers, he found a note scrawled in menacing letters. If you don't stop this immediately, you'll suffer the consequences. Forget about Faith Gonzalez, or you'll end up like her. Elena held the note in her hands, looking firmly at Martin. What do we do now? He drew a long breath before responding. Continue. More than ever, we need to see this through. They're nervous because we're getting close to the truth. The next morning, Martin discreetly investigated Victor Montoya's current business dealings. He discovered that Montoya had become a powerful local politician with wide-reaching networks in various economic and social sectors. His investigation led him to an old building on the outskirts of Monterrey, where Montoya supposedly ran a charitable foundation. But behind the benevolent facade, Martin found disturbing accounts from former workers, rumors of missing children, altered documents, and people too scared to report anything. As Martin pressed on with his investigation, he felt a mixture of excitement and fear. He knew he was digging up something huge and dangerous, but he also felt he couldn't turn back. One afternoon, heading back to the convent to share new findings with Elena, a black car began following him at a slow pace. Martin noticed it quickly and sped up. However, the vehicle easily caught up, forcing him to stop on a deserted street. A window rolled down slowly, revealing the stern face of an unknown man in dark glasses. Stay out of this, Fernandez, or you'll end up like your son, Martin felt. His heart freeze upon hearing such a direct threat. Just how far would they go? Rather than scare him, those words only fueled his resolve. Arriving at the convent, he told Elena about the incident. "We can't stop now," Martin said with certainty. "The truth is close, and that's what terrifies them." Elena looked at him intently, aware of the danger they both faced. "I'm with you to the end," she answered bravely. "For faith, for justice, and for all who have no voice." That night, as they went through the documents once again, they knew their enemy was near, watching them from the shadows, willing to do anything to stop them. The air was thick with one unsettling question. Were they truly prepared to face the power behind Victor Montoya? What Martin and Elena didn't know was that the truth still hid much darker, more dangerous secrets, waiting to be exposed. Dawn broke cold over Monterrey, heralding the end of a long, painful road. Victor Montoya, the man who had once believed himself untouchable, had finally been captured as he tried to cross the border illegally. His proud face, which for years had instilled fear and respect throughout the community, now showed the desperation of a man who knew justice had caught up with him. News of his capture spread rapidly, dominating newspaper headlines and conversations across the city. For weeks, Monterrey remained on edge, waiting for the trial that would definitively close a dark chapter in local history. Meanwhile, at the convent of Our Lady of Grace, Sister Elena Castro silently gazed at a yellowed photograph of Faith Gonzalez. She had waited decades for this moment. Now that it had finally arrived, she felt no joy, only deep sorrow for all the accumulated pain. Martin Fernandez, who stayed close to Elena in those difficult days, gently knocked on her door, interrupting her thoughts. "It's time, sister," Martin said softly but firmly. "The trial starts today. We have to go." Elena nodded slowly and, taking Faith's photo, left the convent with Martin. Both knew that this time justice would prevail. The trial against Victor Montoya soon became the most anticipated event in Monterrey. The courtroom was packed with journalists, victims, witnesses, and citizens demanding justice. In front of them, Victor remained stiff and defiant, although his eyes no longer shone with arrogance, only resignation. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: documents, financial records, photographs, and direct testimonies from former employees detailing how Victor had used the orphanage for his dark dealings. But it was Angela Montoya's statement, Victor's wife, that brought total silence to the courtroom. Dressed modestly and speaking in a broken voice, Angela revealed, one by one, the horrors she had witnessed for years. How Victor manipulated and made children vanish, and how cruelly he forever silenced Faith. Her testimony was so emotional and honest that by the time she finished, many people in attendance were openly weeping. Victor looked at her with profound resentment, finally understanding there was no escape. Next, several surviving victims recounted their experiences in trembling voices, describing how Faith had tried to protect them until the end. Their words resonated deeply with Elena, who clutched her friend's photo with trembling hands. After intense weeks, the judge read out the final sentence. "Victor Montoya, you are hereby found guilty of all charges. You are sentenced to life, imprisonment without the possibility of parole." An eruption of applause and tears filled the room. Justice had at last been served after decades of complicit silences and painful secrets. A week later, under a clear, sunny sky, the Monterrey Metropolitan Cathedral was filled with people paying tribute to Faith Gonzalez. The open doors allowed the warm breeze outside to gently brush past those entering in solemn silence. Among the crowd were former parishioners, victims' families, city representatives, and countless people who simply wished to honor the memory of that brave nun. Up front, Martin and Elena stood together, emotionally gazing at Faith's photograph, placed carefully near the altar and surrounded by white flowers. The Archbishop began in a deep voice. "We are gathered here to honor a woman who was silenced, but whose voice could never truly be extinguished. Faith Gonzalez gave her life defending the innocent. Today, at last, we give her the recognition she deserves." While he continued speaking, a children's choir assembled before the altar. When they began singing that same hymn Faith had sung, 35 years ago, for the last time, a profound silence filled the cathedral. Elena could no longer hold back her tears, remembering so clearly her friend's voice echoing in these same walls so many years before. Martin watched the children sing with innocence and purity, and something changed deep within him. He realized that all his struggle and suffering had been worthwhile. There was finally justice. He had found a new purpose. At the end of the hymn, the silence was broken by spontaneous applause. Emotion flooded every face, and Elena, taking Martin's hand, whispered in a trembling yet firm voice, "At last she can rest in peace. Thank you for never giving up, Martin." He nodded, deeply moved. After the ceremony, as they left the cathedral, a young couple approached them timidly. They introduced themselves as the new directors of the renovated orphanage, now genuinely dedicated to protecting children. Surprised, Martin listened to their proposal. "We'd like to invite you to join our board of directors. Your experience, your courage, you could make a great difference." Martin, feeling that destiny was offering him redemption, accepted without hesitation. "It would be an honor," he answered, deeply moved. "I promise I won't let you down." Elena, proud and with tears in her eyes, smiled quietly. She knew Faith would be happy to see him like that. That afternoon, as the sun began to set, Martin and Elena walked slowly to the old Puente de Santa Lucia by the lagoon of San Esteban. They both stood in silence for a moment, contemplating the still waters and the orange glow reflected on the surface. Elena gently pulled out some small white flowers from her pocket, Faith's favorites. "This is where it all began, and where we must now close the cycle," Elena whispered softly. With careful solemnity, they both tossed the flowers into the water. The petals floated gently, creating small ripples on the lagoon's calm surface. Martin, his voice steady, broke the silence. "I promise you, Faith, we'll never again allow another voice to be silenced like yours." Elena nodded slowly, tears in her eyes, but finally at peace. "Your voice will live on in every child protected, in every act of justice." The sunset slowly colored the lagoon in golden and purple tones. As the white flowers drifted, Martin and Elena remained silent, knowing that Faith Gonzalez's legacy would never truly die. That evening, Monterrey felt at last the relief of a long-awaited justice. Because although evil had tried to erase the truth, Faith's voice was now heard clearly, forever echoing in the memory of those who loved her. Martin looked at Elena again with respect and affection, understanding that together they had accomplished something that once seemed impossible. "Now, I understand why she was called Faith," Martin whispered with profound emotion. "Because she was always there, guiding us toward the truth, and her voice will never be forgotten." Elena replied with absolute certainty. Under that orange sky reflecting the end of a lengthy battle, they remained silent, promising themselves they would never yield to injustice. They knew their struggle was not over, but thanks to Faith, they had the strength to carry on. Because even though the shadows were powerful, there would always be a voice willing to break the silence, tirelessly fighting for justice and truth. The voice of a brave woman named Faith Gonzalez, whose memory would live forever in every heart she touched. The saga of Faith Gonzalez shows that even the darkest systems eventually crumble under sustained courage and solidarity. A humble nun's determination, an elderly diver's promise, and an aging sister's unwavering loyalty proved stronger than political influence, wealth, and decades of silence. Their journey reminds us that truth is patient but relentless. It can be buried for years, under paperwork, beneath water, behind threats, but it will surface when even one person refuses to look away. Courage is contagious. Faith's lone stand emboldened Elena, inspired Martin, and finally convinced Angela Montoya to break her silence. One brave voice can spark an entire chorus. Justice requires persistence. Real change is rarely immediate. It demands tireless investigation, community support, and moral stamina, especially when institutions hesitate. Compassion is revolutionary, protecting the vulnerable, children without families, victims without platforms, challenges corrupt. Power more than any protest alone. Empathy, when paired with action, becomes a transformative force. Legacies live through service. By joining the orphanage's new board, Martin ensures Faith's values will guide future generations. Our best tribute to the fallen is to carry their mission forward. May this story encourage us to speak when voices are stifled, to stand with those seeking justice, and to remember that hope, like Faith's name, is both a promise and a responsibility. What did you feel upon hearing the full story of Faith Gonzalez? Do you believe her voice will truly live on forever? Leave us your comment.